Shalom, welcome back. Now we're going to be focusing on Shorashim. What is Shorashim? Shorashim are three-letter roots. And to make it simple, we have to understand what a root really is. A root is three letters that comprise an idea, a meaning, okay? And so by these three letters, we create multiple words in order to create this concept. And if you're going to think about it in Hebrew, the best thing to understand is Shorashim are basically actions, if you want to think about it, okay? And the actions express an idea, and from it we create different multiple nouns based upon this idea. And the way Hebrew functions is Hebrew likes to take, and this is how we have to think, we have to begin to think in Hebrew. Hebrew likes to take a action and identify the thing by that action. So we don't call something, for example, a gift because we label it that. It's not like English. English likes to label stuff in, English likes to call, for example, a thing you put babies in a stroller, okay? Or a things that you put food in a grocery store, a shopping cart. And you kind of have this idea that's completely separate from each other, and we create different nouns based upon the different identifications, what we want to call it. But the problem is it doesn't really tell me much about the thing. I have to basically learn new words in order to understand what this new object is. In Hebrew, these things that we do is we have to understand the idea. And the idea is this verbal action. What is it doing? How does it function? And how does it to be identified based upon this function? And that's how we create nouns. Everything in Hebrew is based upon function. The function of the thing is where we get the meaning, okay? So based upon the function, we get the meaning, okay? And when we think of Hebrew, we have to think very conceptually. And that's not so hard, because if you think about in English, we have a lot of words that are very conceptual. We just don't think about them as that, because we just use them every single day when we speak in English. Think of the word law, for example. If somebody said he went to the law, you could know that from a contextual standpoint that the word law means like a police officer. Or if he said to a person, that's against the law, you would know that law is being used in the concept of he's violating some kind of legal edict, something that was dictated as to what you're not permitted to do. If the person said, for example, he went over and went to the givers of the law, or he went to the law and sat down and stood before the judge. The law could be in a generic sense of this idea of the court and the court systems. And so you kind of get the idea what I'm saying here. It may not be all perfect and stuff, but you kind of get the idea what I'm saying. Well, this is what we're doing here. You're taking this concept, and you have to understand this concept. And from this concept, we're creating different words. So when we look at this word here, for example, niset. What is niset? Niset, we say, is a gift. But that doesn't really help me understand unless I start putting it into an actual Shorish mentality. They're going back to the conceptualization. What is a gift? A gift is something we lift and carry, something that we bring when we're going to people's houses, or we bring and we carry when we're going to somebody in order to give them something that's very special, a very loving and showing honor or respect, or to celebrate. And so in Hebrew, we're talking about something that's lifted up in our hands that we bring, and so that's why we call it a niset. In English we call it a gift, but in Hebrew it's something that you're lifting up and bringing. Another thing is, look at this noun, is nesu'ah. Nesu'ah is a carried object. So here you have this lifting up being incorporated into this thing called a carried object. Some people call it a burden, which is kind of very horrible in English, because many people, when they think burden, their first mind they think of something bad, and they don't understand that burden just means something that's carried. And it's kind of a very old way of speaking. And a lot of people don't even really utilize the concept of thinking of that way anymore. And that's where you get this false understanding when you read in Jeremiah or Isaiah where it says you should not lift a burden on the Sabbath, and they think, well, that's something that's difficult and hard. This is obviously, carrying my keys isn't hard, or carrying a marker is not hard, but that's not actually what the Hebrew is saying. The Hebrew is saying something that's lifted up, something that's been picked up and carried. Another word is the word si. What does si mean? It means something lifted up characteristically. It's an attitude that we have when we lift up a person, or we lift up a concept of how somebody is. You know, like when people look at movie stars and they lift them up in their eyes as big, important and stuff. That's what this word is referring to, si. Then we have the word mas, which means a lifted up attitude placed upon a person. All right? That's like an attitude of respect or honor. It's this mas that you have when you're looking at a person, like a grandfather, or maybe a father figure, or maybe it's your teacher. You know, it's an attitude of mas that you have. We have here this next word, which is maset. What is maset? It's an ascending movement. This is like used for example, when it talks about smoke that's moving up in an ascending movement. And so this is referring to an ascending movement, and of course we would have a noun attached to it at the end, which would identify what type of ascending we're referring to. What is it? The next word here is called Sa'et. Sa'et. Sa'et has a few different conceptual meanings. One of them has to do with swelling, so it's the lifting up of the skin. So that's what a sa'et is, the lifting of the skin. So like, you know, when you get like a really nasty burn and your skin begins to lift up, that's what a sa'et is. It's called a lifting up of the skin. Another thing is the lifting up of facial expression. So like, you know, when this person's sad and hey, they start to smile, and so that's also called a sa'et. It's the lifting up of the skin, as you can see, but it's in a different manner. Another definition for sa'et is a positive sentence. What's a positive sentence? You know, it's something that lifts the person up, and he realizes instead of being convicted, he's been actually found to be innocent. All right. This next word we're going to look at here is set. Set means a rising up or a lifting. So once again, you see the concept of to lift up, a rising up or lifting up of something. Okay. Next word, this is similar to this word here, masa. Masa is something that's carried or lifted. So to translate this burden, as you can see in stuff which many people have a very messed up idea, that we see the fact of the importance of, in Hebrew, Hebrew wants us to understand the first, the shorish, before we get to the actual word meaning. So we can understand, what's he really saying? And to understand how to translate this in the correct way in our own head, so we can know what this is referring to. So if we looked at the word masa, we're talking about something that can be carried or lifted up. So that could be any object. It can be a book, it could be a chair, it could be a table. That's any kind of object whatsoever. And lastly, we have is masa'ah. Masa'ah is a rising flame. So we see how the word is always connected to the shorish. There's always this connection that you find that talks about something being lifted up. This is why we learn shorashim. Because when we learn the shorashim, we can understand the real essence and meaning of the word, and now we can go back and we can learn Hebrew correctly, and we can translate these things in our head properly. We'll see you next time as we look at some more Hebrew words and we define these new shorashim. We'll see you around.